Hi, I know it looks like I'm in the Antarctic, but I'm not. I'm in the Himalayas. No, I'm not in the Himalayas either. I'm sitting in my office. It's a cold, cold summer's day in Bondi, and I have the window open and fresh air blowing through. And as you can see from the shadows behind me, it's the end of the day, and it's been a big one. I put together a video here from an Excel spreadsheet sort of thing to demonstrate exactly how Cruel to be Kind works and how we need to develop a sense of foundation for our lives. It's a sketchpad video. Please enjoy it. And I hope this gives you some insight along with the blog today as for step 4 in the path of developing a strong, powerful intuition. Have a great day. Bye. G'day guys, this is Chris, and today we're working on daily habits, kindness to yourself, kindness to others. We're working on the whole kit and caboodle, and I thought it really important to explain a few things. Firstly, you know that there's a pyramid, and that pyramid has 7 levels to it. You know that there are 7 areas of life. And so with all that said, what we're going to do today is look at how we can create the 7 areas of life and work on a realistic way to talk about how to manage your life. Firstly, there's a got-to level. And in a got-to level, these are the things we say, I've just got to do it. And for example, you might say at a health level, breathe. Poop. You might say at a health level, breathe. Deep. So we're not asking whether that's a spectacular idea. We're saying that's a got-to. Career, you've got to, let's say, turn up. At a mental level, you've got to learn. Or even, I don't even know what the next one might be, but at a got-to social, you've got to have friends. At a financial level, earn a certain number of dollars. So in relationship, 20 kisses per day. There's some stuff you can do. Spiritual, you might be thank the sky. So you can see there is a got-to level of life, which is really important, and you can tick those off, and you say, these are not negotiables. These things have to happen on a daily basis, and they're not habits, they're structure. So on a got-to level, we need structure. And you need to think about what are your structural elements for your particular life. You then would move to should, and these are what's called daily habits. So a daily habit might be, for spiritual, might be wake early. Mental, it might be learn, focus. That's a bit stupid, isn't it? I've just really screwed that up. I don't know how this all works. Do you know how this stuff works? I've got no idea. Anyway, learn more. Socially, what you should do is be kind. So at this level, we're talking about morals and ethics and what have you. We're talking about in career, we should network. At a health level, we should exercise and maybe eat well. So financially, save 10%. Relationship, turn up. Now, these are what I would describe as daily habits. And I think daily habits are there to help you manage the difference between short term and long term. You see, a habit is something that rewards you. And if there are good habits and bad habits, but bad habits reward you in the short term and good habits reward you in the long term. So we're very motivated to adhere to bad habits quite often because we get endorphins and we get dopamine, a dopamine rush out of doing something that's bad for us, like eating a block of chocolate or drinking too many beers. We get a dopamine or an endorphin rush, which makes us feel good because it's short term. But those things might be bad habits in the long term. Now, it takes us roughly 6 weeks of exercises, daily strict exercises to develop a new habit. And there's thousands of habits. And what you remember, the mind is a really lazy animal. And what it's trying to do is automate as much as possible of what goes on in life. So instead of making 100,000 choices a day, it works its way backwards and says, what did you do yesterday? We're going to do again today. And how can I automate that process? So the automated process isn't always healthy. And so this automation, we get reward. For example, you might be sitting at your computer desk going, I really don't want to do this work. I'm really feeling unmotivated. Somewhere in the past, the habit of listening to that voice and not doing the work rewarded you with some sex or rewarded you with a bit of TV. So you got a short-term dopamine or endorphin rush from doing something that's actually turned out to be a bad habit. So the habit is formed, it's summarized a situation, it's created a response to a circumstance that doesn't necessarily suit what you want, but it did and it does continue to provide a short-term result. So creating new habits is actually looking at sometimes contradictory habits and saying, what new habits do I need to develop in order to cause myself to be more fulfilled in the long term and less addicted to some of these negative habits in the short term? Okay. So then we move, so this is what we said, habits. Then we move up into this territory, the need to, want to. And this is where goals are really important. And I think when we're setting goals, we're talking about, in the need to area of life, we're talking 3 to 6 week goals. And in the want to area, we're talking 6 to 12 month goals. And these want to and need to are very powerful because in this area of life, we're in a sense starting to volunteer for behavior, volunteer for what we want in our lives. And so setting goals up here, setting targets, being really clear what we want to do for the next 3 to 6 weeks, manages our need to. So this is, need to is purely emotion. Want to is a self-actualization, as Maslow called it. So we're starting to get, as we go into need to and want to, we're starting to get to relatively high areas of self-awareness. endorphins and many of the chemicals that we need are produced in this area, and they are very motivating. So this all is motivation. This gets us, in a sense, what we want. But they don't do anything unique. In other words, it's a little bit reward punishment, and it drives a lot of people. But there's very little intuition. Intuition comes in these three areas of life: the love to, choose to, and desire to. And these are all to do with attitudes. So it doesn't necessarily, up in this area of life, matter so much what you're doing as how you're doing it and your approach to it. Now, a lot of people work really hard in the attitude area of life, thinking, how do I think, how do I think, how do I be a good person, how do I love what I do and do what I love? But what's happened is, it's really easy. What happens is they can be completely defunct in the bottom. And so this area we call foundation, which is the basics. And without foundation, there's no use putting the roof. And I think it's really important to understand this today, is that kindness to yourself is sometimes a little tough. It's sometimes got to be cruel to be kind, because the cruel is, you don't, down in this foundation area, you're not always doing what is short-term gratification. You're not always doing things that are in this minute and the next 10 minutes gratifying, producing endorphins, creating a sense of happiness in the next 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You're doing things that are more sustainable and longer term. And therefore, they don't feel so great in the short term, but they do produce great results in the long term. And so sometimes we say, oh no, you can't have that extra beer, or you can't have that ice cream, or you do need to do this work you're doing today, or you should really turn up to that meeting in a more complementary state, or you've got to get up this morning at 5 o'clock, and you've got to go to bed tonight at 8 o'clock, and you've got to eat this food, and you should take that exercise. And sometimes you've got to be a little cruel on yourself, because what you'd love to do is just sit down with a packet of chips and a beer and a tin of yogurt and veg out. So in the kindness to self, cruel to be kind, the cruel is, we don't necessarily always subscribe to short term. We do, however, set goals, set ambitions and targets. We do ask ourselves, what have I got to do, and what should I do? And we stick to it. This is our basics. This is the foundation. We call it routine. And this is the foundation upon which we can really build a very intuitive, very inspired, and very clear leadership. And it's where we tap into the one great word that I love, and that is human genius, which means we stop emulating people. We realize our full potential, and we start living without really so much concern about what other people think about us, but we have a great deal of concern as to what we deliver to other people. This is Chris. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.